I don't need your ancient advice on how to take care of my own baby, Sarah snapped when I offered to help with my grandson. I said okay and left. What I discovered next made her regret every word. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Because, honey, you're in for quite the ride. Let me set the scene. I'm Margaret. I'm 68, and I've delivered more babies than Sarah has changed diapers. When my son Michael called me, practically in tears because baby Ryan wouldn't stop crying, I grabbed my coat faster than a teenager grabs their phone. 2 streets over, I knocked on their door. Sarah opened it looking like she'd been hit by a truck, which, fair enough, she'd just given birth 3 weeks ago. But the look she gave me? Pure venom. I don't need your ancient advice on how to take care of my own baby, she said, blocking the doorway like I was selling insurance. Now, I've been called many things in my life, but ancient by my 28-year-old daughter-in-law? That stung more than stepping on a Lego barefoot. Sarah, I just thought, we're fine. Michael shouldn't have called you. Behind her, baby Ryan was screaming loud enough to wake the entire neighborhood. Michael appeared looking frazzled, bouncing the baby like a basketball. Mom, thank goodness. She was just leaving, Sarah cut him off. I looked at my son, then at his wife, then at that poor crying baby. Something was off here, and I don't mean the smell of dirty diapers. In all my years as a midwife, I'd seen new mothers stressed, tired, overwhelmed, but hostile toward help. That was a red flag bigger than the one at a communist parade. All right, I said, keeping my voice calm. But if you need anything, we won't, Sarah said, already closing the door. As I walked back to my car, I heard voices through the window. Jake's voice. Now Jake was Michael's best friend since college, married to Lisa, who happened to be Sarah's best friend. Nice enough guy, but what was he doing there at 9 in the evening? Through the curtains, I saw him take the baby from Michael. Immediately, Ryan stopped crying. Just like that. Complete silence. Now call me paranoid, but in my experience, babies don't just stop crying for random people. They stop crying for their parents, their caregivers, people they're familiar with, people they know. I sat in my car for another 10 minutes, watching. Jake was still there, playing with the baby like he'd done it 1,000 times before. Lisa was there too, chatting with Sarah like nothing was wrong. But here's what really got my attention. Sarah was smiling, genuinely smiling. With Jake in the room, she was a completely different person than the ice queen who'd just called me ancient. Interesting. Very interesting indeed. The next morning, Michael called me sounding like he'd been through a blender. Mom, I don't know what's wrong with Sarah. She barely talks to me anymore. When Jake and Lisa come over, she lights up, but the moment they leave... How often do they come over? I asked, because apparently my ancient brain was still working just fine. Almost every day. Jake says he wants to help with the baby, and Lisa brings Sarah food. They're such good friends. Such good friends. Right. And I'm the Queen of England. Maybe Sarah's just tired, honey. New mothers. It's more than that, Mom. She acts like I don't exist. But when Jake holds Ryan, she watches him like he's performing brain surgery. It's weird. Weird doesn't even begin to cover it, sweetheart. That afternoon, I decided to pay another visit. This time, I called first. You know, being polite and all that ancient stuff. Hi, Sarah. I was wondering if I could bring you some of that soup you used to love. Oh, long pause. Actually, Jake and Lisa are coming over soon, so maybe another time. Jake and Lisa again. These two were busier than Amazon delivery drivers. Of course, dear. Maybe tomorrow? I'll call you. Sure you will. And I'll start doing yoga. But here's where it gets interesting. I decided to drive by their house anyway, just to check on my son. You understand? Purely maternal concern. Jake's car was there, but Lisa's wasn't. Now, Jake said he was coming over with Lisa, but Lisa was nowhere to be seen, unless she'd learned to teleport, which would be impressive, but unlikely. I parked across the street and waited. Call it ancient intuition, but something was definitely off. 20 minutes later, Lisa's car pulled up. She got out carrying grocery bags and looked surprised to see Jake's car. Surprised, as in she didn't know he was there. She knocked on the door, and when Sarah answered, I could see the panic on Sarah's face even from across the street. She was talking fast, gesturing, clearly explaining something. Lisa nodded and smiled, but even she looked confused. Then Jake appeared from inside the house, casual as can be, like he'd just been hanging out. He kissed Lisa hello and helped her with the groceries. Now, I may be ancient, but I'm not blind. If you tell your spouse you're going somewhere with someone, you don't arrive separately and act surprised to see each other. That's not how marriage works. Trust me, I was married for 43 years. As I drove home, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just witnessed something that would make a soap opera writer jealous. Sarah's behavior, Jake's convenient presence, Lisa's confusion. It was all adding up to something that made my stomach turn. My son was living in a house of lies, and he had no idea. 3 days later, Sarah called me. Actually called me. I almost dropped my coffee. Margaret, I wanted to apologize for the other day. I was just overwhelmed. Of course, dear. That's completely understandable. I was wondering if you could watch Ryan tomorrow afternoon. I have some errands to run. Now, this was interesting. The woman who didn't need my ancient advice suddenly needed my ancient babysitting services. I may be old, but I wasn't born yesterday. I'd love to. What time? Around 2? Michael will be at work, so it'll just be you and Ryan. Just me and Ryan, and no Michael to witness whatever Sarah was really up to. How convenient. The next day, I arrived promptly at 2. Sarah was dressed up, and I mean dressed up. Hair done, makeup perfect, wearing a dress I'd never seen before. For errands, right. I should be back by 5, she said, grabbing her purse and practically sprinting to the door. Take your time, dear. Ryan and I will be just fine. She left faster than a cat with its tail on fire. Now, I'd love to say I immediately followed her, but I'm not a complete lunatic. I waited 30 minutes, fed Ryan, changed his diaper, and put him down for a nap. Then, and only then, did I secure him in his car seat and decide to run some errands of my own. I drove to the coffee shop downtown, Sarah's favorite spot. No sign of her. The grocery store? Nope. The mall? Not there either. Then I remembered the park by the lake. It was secluded, romantic, the kind of place you'd go if you wanted privacy. And bingo, there was Sarah's car. I parked behind some trees and walked closer, pushing Ryan in his stroller like any normal grandmother out for a walk. What I saw made my blood freeze. Sarah was sitting on a bench with a man. Not just sitting, kissing. Full on, passionate. I can't keep my hands off you kissing. The kind of kissing married women don't do with men who aren't their husbands. My heart was pounding so hard I thought Ryan might wake up from the noise. I tried to get closer to see who this mystery man was, but they were too far away and he had his back to me. Tall, dark hair, wearing a blue jacket. They talked for about 20 minutes, holding hands, touching faces, acting like teenagers in love. Then they kissed goodbye, and he walked toward the parking lot while Sarah headed back to her car. I ducked behind a tree, waiting for him to pass. If I could just see his face. But he got into his car and drove away before I could get a clear look. I did manage to see part of his license plate, though, the letters JMW. As I drove home with Ryan sleeping peacefully in his car seat, my mind was racing. My daughter-in-law was having an affair. My son was being betrayed by the woman he loved, and I was apparently the only one who knew. The question was, what was I going to do about it? And more importantly, who was this man who thought he could destroy my son's family? I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sarah kissing that mystery man. By morning, I'd made a decision. I had to tell Michael. He deserved to know. I called him at work. Mom, what's up? Everything okay with Ryan yesterday? Michael, we need to talk. Can you come over after work? Sure, but what's wrong? You sound weird. Just come over, honey. When Michael arrived, I made him sit down and told him everything. The secret meeting, the kissing, the whole sordid affair. I expected shock, anger, maybe even tears. What I got was denial. Mom, that's impossible. Sarah wouldn't do that. Michael, I saw them with my own eyes. You saw someone who looked like Sarah. It's a mistake. A mistake? I may need reading glasses, but my distance vision is perfect. Thank you very much. Honey, I know what I saw. No, Mom. You've never liked Sarah. You've always thought she wasn't good enough for me. That's not true. It is true. You've been looking for reasons to break us up since we got engaged. Well, congratulations. You finally found one. Even if you had to make it up. The words hit me like a slap. My own son thought I was lying. Michael, I don't want to hear it. Sarah is going through postpartum depression. She's struggling, and instead of supporting her, you're making up stories about affairs. He stood up, angrier than I'd seen him since he was 16. I don't want you coming around anymore until you can treat my wife with respect. And just like that, he was gone. My son, my only child, had chosen to believe his cheating wife over his own mother. I sat in my empty house, staring at the walls, feeling more alone than I had since my husband died. But underneath the hurt was something else. Determination. Fine. If Michael wouldn't believe me without proof, I'd get him proof. Real, undeniable, slap-you-in-the-face proof. The next morning, I drove by their house. Jake's car was in the driveway. Again. For someone who supposedly worked full-time, Jake sure spent a lot of time at my son's house. That's when it hit me like a lightning bolt. Jake, JMW, Jake Michael Walker, the license plate, the blue jacket I'd seen Jake wearing before, the way he handled Ryan like he was his own child, the way Sarah lit up when he was around. Oh my God, the mystery man wasn't a stranger at all. It was Jake, Michael's best friend, the man he trusted most in the world, the man whose wife was Sarah's best friend. I sat in my car, hands shaking as the pieces fell into place. Jake wasn't just helping with the baby out of friendship. He was helping because Ryan was his baby. The affair wasn't with some random man. Sarah was sleeping with Jake, and they'd been carrying on right under everyone's noses, under Michael's nose, under Lisa's nose. And that baby, that sweet little Ryan that Michael loved so much, he wasn't Michael's son at all. My grandson wasn't my grandson. The betrayal was so massive, so complete, that I actually felt sick. These people had destroyed my family, and they were still playing house, still pretending everything was normal. But I knew the truth now, and truth has a way of coming out, whether people want it to or not. I was going to make sure of it. Knowing the truth and proving it are two different things entirely. I needed evidence, real evidence that even Michael couldn't deny. Lucky for me, I had a friend who worked in medical testing. Patricia had been running lab tests for 30 years, and we'd known each other since our kids played together in elementary school. If anyone could help me, it was her. I called her that evening. Patricia, I need a favor. A big one. Margaret, what's wrong? I explained the situation. Well, most of it. I may have left out the part about following Sarah around like some kind of elderly private investigator. You want a paternity test? Patricia's voice was careful. Margaret, that's complicated. I know it's not exactly legal, but Patricia, my son's whole life is a lie. There was a long pause. Patricia had gone through her own messy divorce years ago when she found out her husband was cheating. What do you need from me? 2 hair samples, that's all. I can't officially. I'm not asking for official. I'm asking for the truth. Another pause. Bring me what you have. But Margaret, you better be prepared for whatever answer you get. Oh, honey, I was prepared all right. Prepared to watch this whole house of lies come crashing down. The next challenge was getting the samples. Ryan's was easy. I still had some of his hair from when I'd babysat him. Jake's was trickier. I waited until Saturday, when I knew they'd all be at Michael's house for their usual weekend gathering. You know, just one big happy family, if you ignored the fact that 2 of them were lying, cheating snakes. I drove over with a homemade casserole, playing the role of apologetic mother-in-law. I brought lunch, I announced when Michael opened the door. He looked surprised, but not angry. Mom, you didn't have to. I wanted to apologize. You're right. I've been too critical of Sarah. Stress makes people do crazy things. Oh, the irony. Inside, the whole gang was there. Sarah was holding Ryan. Jake was on the couch next to her. Lisa was in the kitchen, and Michael was playing host. Just looking at them made my stomach turn, but I smiled and played nice. Jake, could you help me get something from my car? I asked sweetly. While he was outside, I excused myself to use the bathroom. Their guest bathroom shared a wall with Michael and Sarah's bedroom, and I happened to know that Jake had been staying in their guest room recently to help with late-night feedings, according to Michael. I slipped into the guest room and found Jake's hairbrush on the dresser. Bingo. Several dark hairs were caught in the bristles. I carefully extracted a few and wrapped them in tissue. When Jake came back inside, I was washing my hands in the kitchen like nothing had happened. Everything okay, Margaret? Lisa asked. Sweet, innocent Lisa, who had no idea her husband was a lying cheat. Perfect, dear. Just perfect. That afternoon, I met Patricia at her lab. She took the samples without asking too many questions. Results will take 3 days, she said. Margaret, are you sure about this? More sure than I've ever been about anything. And if you're right, if Jake is the father? I looked out the window at the parking lot, thinking about Michael's face when he'd accused me of lying, thinking about Sarah's smug smile when she'd called my advice ancient, thinking about poor Lisa, who deserved so much better than a cheating husband. Then everyone's going to know the truth, whether they want to or not. Those 3 days felt like 3 years. I cleaned my house twice, reorganized my closets, and baked enough cookies to feed a small army. Anything to keep my hands busy while my mind raced. On Wednesday morning, my phone rang. Margaret, it's Patricia. My heart stopped. And Jake is the father. 99.9% certainty. Even though I'd known it in my gut, hearing it confirmed was like getting punched in the stomach. Margaret, you still there? I'm here. What are you going to do? What was I going to do? I was going to destroy some lives, save others, and probably lose my son in the process. I'm going to tell the truth. Be careful, Margaret. Truth is a powerful weapon. Oh, honey, I was counting on it. Having the test results was like carrying around a live grenade. Every time I looked at that envelope, I felt the weight of what it would do to my family. But here's the thing about the truth. It doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care who gets hurt. It just is. I spent 2 days agonizing over how to handle this. Part of me wanted to march over there and scream the truth from the rooftops. Another part wanted to confront Sarah privately, give her a chance to come clean on her own. But then I remembered her calling my advice ancient. I remembered Michael accusing me of lying. I remembered poor Lisa bringing Sarah groceries and support while her husband was betraying her behind her back. These people had made their choices. Now they were going to live with the consequences. I decided to start with Sarah. If she confessed willingly, maybe we could handle this with some dignity. Maybe. I called her Thursday morning. Sarah, could we meet for coffee? I'd like to clear the air between us. Oh, sure. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, dear. I just think we got off on the wrong foot. We met at that same coffee shop downtown where I'd first looked for her. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sarah arrived looking nervous, fidgeting with her wedding ring. Guilty conscience will do that to you. Margaret, about the other day. Sarah, I interrupted. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Her face went pale. Okay, is Ryan Michael's son? The question hung in the air like smoke. Sarah's coffee cup started shaking in her hands. What kind of question is that? A simple one. Is my son the father of that baby? Of course he is. Why would you even ask that? But her voice was too high, too quick. She was lying, and we both knew it. Sarah, I saw you at the park with Jake. The coffee cup slipped from her hands, crashing to the floor. Other customers turned to look, but I kept my eyes on Sarah's face as the color drained from it completely. I don't know what you think you saw. I saw you kissing him. I saw you acting like lovers. Tears started streaming down her face. Please, Margaret, please don't what? Don't tell my son that his wife is cheating on him? Don't tell him that the baby he's raising isn't his? You don't understand. Then explain it to me. She looked around the coffee shop like she was trapped, which I suppose she was. It wasn't supposed to happen, she whispered. Jake and we had too much to drink one night when Michael was working late. It was just once. Just one mistake. Just one mistake that created a whole human being. But then you found out you were pregnant. She nodded, sobbing now. I didn't know whose it was. I prayed it was Michael's. But when Ryan was born, he looks so much like Jake. Everyone says so, but they think it's just a coincidence. Lisa thinks it's cute. Poor, sweet, oblivious Lisa. Sarah, you have to tell them. I can't. It would destroy everything. Michael loves that baby. Lisa would leave Jake. Our whole group would fall apart. It's already destroyed, Sarah. You destroyed it the moment you decided to lie. She looked at me with desperate eyes. What do you want? Money? I'll do anything. Just please don't tell them. What did I want? I wanted my son to know the truth. I wanted him to stop living a lie. I wanted justice for all the pain these two had caused. But mostly, I wanted my family back. I want you to tell Michael yourself. Tonight. I can't. Then I will. She grabbed my arm across the table. Margaret, please, give me time to figure out how to. You've had months to figure it out. Sarah, time's up. I stood up and left her there, crying into her spilled coffee. Was I being cruel? Maybe. But sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind. And honestly, after what she'd put my son through, she deserved every tear. I should have known Sarah wouldn't go quietly. She was too much of a coward to tell the truth, but not too much of a coward to try to stop me. The next morning, my phone rang at 7 a.m. Mom? Michael's voice was cold. We need to talk. 20 minutes later, he was at my door with Sarah beside him. She looked like she'd been crying all night, which she probably had. Michael looked like he wanted to strangle me, which he probably did. Sarah told me about your conversation yesterday, he said, not even bothering to come inside. She said you're spreading lies about Ryan's paternity. I looked at Sarah, who couldn't meet my eyes. So that's how she was playing it. Michael. No, Mom. This has gone too far. This has gone. First, you accused Sarah of having an affair. Now you're questioning whether Ryan is my son? What's next? Oh, sweetheart. If only you knew. Did you ask her to take a paternity test? I asked calmly. Sarah's face went white again. Michael's jaw tightened. I'm not dignifying this insanity with a test. Ryan is my son. End of discussion. Then you have nothing to worry about. The fact that you would even suggest it shows how far you've lost your mind. Lost my mind? I'd found my mind, thank you very much. And my spine. Michael, what if I could prove... You can't prove anything because there's nothing to prove. He was shouting now, which he rarely did. Sarah was tugging on his arm, trying to get him to leave. Honey, let's just go, she whispered. She's not worth it. Not worth it. This from the woman who was raising my son's child under false pretenses. You're right, Michael said, still staring at me with disappointment that cut like a knife. Mom, until you get help for whatever this is, I don't want you around my family. And just like that, they were gone. Again. I stood in my doorway, watching them drive away, and felt something I hadn't felt in years, pure, burning rage. These people thought they could gaslight me, thought they could make me question my own sanity. Well, they had another thing coming. I called Patricia. I need more evidence, I told her. Something undeniable. Margaret, the DNA test is pretty undeniable. Not enough. I need more. What did you have in mind? Can you test for when the baby was conceived? Like narrow down the dates? Possibly. But Margaret, this is getting complicated. And expensive. I'll pay whatever it costs. Because at this point, it wasn't just about the truth anymore. It was about justice. It was about making sure these lying, cheating snakes couldn't continue their charade. That afternoon, I did something I probably shouldn't have done. I drove to Lisa's house. Lisa answered the door with flour on her apron and a smile on her face. She was baking, probably for Sarah and the baby, because that's the kind of person Lisa was, generous, caring, loyal to a fault. Margaret, what a nice surprise. Come in, I just made cookies. I followed her into her kitchen, looking around at the happy family photos on the walls. Lisa and Jake at their wedding. Lisa and Jake on vacation. Lisa and Jake with Sarah and Michael at various gatherings. All lies. Every single photo was built on lies. Lisa, can I ask you something? Of course. How long have Jake and Sarah been such good friends? She paused in wrapping cookies. Oh, forever. Since college, really. Jake introduced Michael to Sarah, actually. They've always been close. Always been close. I bet they had. And Jake spends a lot of time helping with the baby? Oh, yes. He's wonderful with Ryan. He jokes that he's getting practice for when we have kids of our own. She smiled sadly. We've been trying for 3 years now. My heart broke for her. Here she was, struggling to have a baby, while her husband already had one with another woman. I'm sure it'll happen soon, I lied, because what else could I say? I hope so. Jake would make such a good father. You should see him with Ryan. It's like they're related. If she only knew how right she was. I left Lisa's house feeling sick to my stomach. This sweet, innocent woman was going to be destroyed when the truth came out. But she deserved to know. They all deserved to know. Even if it killed me to be the one to tell them. Over the next week, I became someone I barely recognized. a woman obsessed with collecting evidence. I told myself it was for justice, for truth, for my son's sake. But honestly, I think I was also getting a little satisfaction from being the smartest person in this whole mess. They all thought Ancient Margaret was losing her marbles. Well, Ancient Margaret was about to school them all. I started keeping a journal, documenting every suspicious thing I observed. Jake's car at Michael's house when it shouldn't be there. Sarah's mysterious phone calls. The way they looked at each other when they thought no one was watching. I even bought a small camera, one of those spy gadgets they sell online. Made me feel like I was starring in my own detective show. The breakthrough came the following Tuesday. I was parked across from Michael's house. Yes, I know how that sounds. When I saw something that made my blood boil. Michael's car pulled out of the driveway at 8:30, his usual time for work. 5 minutes later, Jake's car pulled in. He had a key, because of course he did. In case of emergencies, I'm sure they told Michael. I waited 20 minutes, then called the house. "Hi, Sarah. It's Margaret. I was wondering if I could come by to apologize properly. I brought you something." "Oh, now's not really a good time. Is someone there? You sound distracted." "No. No one's here. It's just Ryan's sleeping, and I don't want to wake him." Liar. Jake's car was sitting right there in the driveway. "Of course, dear. Maybe later today?" "Maybe." I hung up and sat there, staring at that house where my son thought he had a happy family. Inside, his wife and his best friend were probably planning their next secret meeting. Or worse. That evening, I called Michael. "How was work today, honey?" "Long. Had back-to-back meetings all day." "And how's Sarah? Is she feeling better?" "A little. Jake came by to help with Ryan while I was at work. He's such a good friend." "Such a good friend, right. That's nice of him." "Yeah. Sarah says he's really good with the baby. Better than me sometimes." "Of course he is, sweetheart. Practice makes perfect." "I'm sure that's not true." "I don't know, Mom. Sometimes I feel like I'm failing at this whole father thing. Ryan cries whenever I hold him, but he's perfectly calm with Jake. My heart broke for my son. He was blaming himself for something that wasn't his fault at all. A baby knows his real father, even if nobody else does. Michael, you're a wonderful father. I keep thinking about what you said, about Sarah acting strange." My pulse quickened. "Oh? I mean, you're wrong about the affair thing. Obviously, but she has been different, distant, and she does light up when Jake's around." "Honey, but that's just because he helps so much, right? I mean, what else could it be? What else indeed?" "I'm sure that's all it is," I lied, because what else could I say? Here was my opening, my chance to plant seeds of doubt. But I couldn't bring myself to destroy him over the phone. When the truth came out, and it would come out, it needed to be definitive, complete, undeniable. "Mom, you still there?" "I'm here, sweetheart. I love you. I'm sorry I got so angry the other day." "I love you too, Michael." After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen staring at that envelope with the DNA results. Soon, very soon, I was going to have to use it. And when I did, nothing would ever be the same again. I couldn't wait any longer. Every day that passed was another day of my son living a lie. Another day of innocent Lisa being betrayed. Another day of Sarah and Jake thinking they'd gotten away with it. Time to end this charade. I decided to try one more time with Sarah, give her one final chance to come clean before I burned her world down. I showed up at her door unannounced on Friday afternoon. She looked surprised and not particularly happy to see me. "Margaret, what are you doing here?" "We need to talk, Sarah. Really talk this time." She looked around nervously. "Michael's not here." "I know. That's why I came now." She reluctantly let me in. Ryan was in his bouncy seat, gurgling happily. Such a sweet baby. None of this was his fault. "Sarah, I'm going to ask you one more time. Are you going to tell Michael the truth?" Her face hardened. "There's no truth to tell. So you're going to keep lying?" "I'm not lying. You're the one making up stories because you can't stand that your son chose me over you." "Chose her over me?" "Oh, honey, if only it were that simple." "Sarah, I know about you and Jake. There is no me and Jake. I saw you together. I have proof." That got her attention. "What kind of proof?" I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo I'd taken of them at the park. It was grainy and taken from a distance, but it clearly showed them kissing. Sarah stared at the photo, her face crumbling. "This doesn't prove anything," she whispered, but her voice had no conviction. "It proves you're a liar and a cheat, and that my son deserves better. Please, Margaret, please don't show this to anyone." "Then tell me the truth, all of it." She looked at Ryan, then back at me, then down at her hands. "It started during my pregnancy," she whispered. "Michael was working so much and Jake was always there. He was excited about the baby, asking questions, helping me set up the nursery." "More excited than Michael?" "Michael was stressed about money, about being a good father. Jake was just happy. He said he couldn't wait to meet the baby, because it was his baby. Of course he couldn't wait." "When did you realize Ryan wasn't Michael's?" Fresh tears started flowing. "When he was born. He looked so much like Jake. The same eyes, the same nose. Lisa even said he looked like Jake as a baby. But she thought it was just coincidence. Does Jake know?" "He suspects. We've never talked about it directly, but he knows." "And you're both content to let Michael raise another man's child?" "Michael loves Ryan. It would destroy him to know the truth." "What about Lisa? Doesn't she deserve to know her husband is a cheating father?" "Lisa can't have children," Sarah exploded. "We've been trying to help her get pregnant for years. This would kill her." "So you decided to play God with everyone's lives?" "We decided to protect the people we love." "You decided to protect yourselves," I corrected. "This isn't about love, Sarah. This is about cowardice." She wiped her eyes, trying to compose herself. "What do you want, Margaret?" "I want you to tell them, both of them, tonight." "I can't." "Then I will. You have no proof that Ryan isn't Michael's son." I reached into my purse and pulled out the envelope from Patricia's lab. "Actually, I do." The color drained from her face completely. "What is that?" "DNA test results. Jake is Ryan's father. 99.9% certainty." She stared at the envelope like it was a bomb, which in a way it was. When did you? "That's not important. What's important is that you have until tomorrow night to tell them yourself. If you don't, I will." "Margaret, please." "No more pleases, Sarah. No more lies. No more betraying my son and his best friend's wife. This ends now." I stood up to leave, then turned back. "Oh, and Sarah, if you try to run, if you try to disappear or take Ryan away, I'll make sure this story gets told to everyone we know. Your parents, your friends, your coworkers, everyone." Her face went white. "You wouldn't. Try me." I left her there, crying over her destroyed life. Did I feel bad? A little, but not bad enough to change my mind. Tomorrow night, the truth was coming out, whether she wanted it to or not. Saturday evening, I called Michael. "Would you and Sarah like to come over for dinner tomorrow? I'll make that roast you love." "Are you sure, Mom? Things have been pretty tense between you and Sarah." "That's exactly why I want to do this. I think we need to clear the air." "Let me ask Sarah." I heard muffled conversation in the background. Sarah was probably panicking, but what could she say? That she didn't want to come because I might expose her affair? She says yes. Should we bring anything? "Just yourselves. Oh, and why don't you invite Jake and Lisa too? We haven't all been together in a while." Another pause. More muffled conversation. "Sure, I'll call them." Perfect. If Sarah thought I was bluffing, she was about to learn otherwise. Sunday afternoon, I cooked like my life depended on it. Roast beef, mashed potatoes, green beans, apple pie. If I was going to destroy my family, at least they'd have a good last meal together. At 6 o'clock sharp, they all arrived. Michael and Sarah with baby Ryan, Jake and Lisa with wine and flowers. Just one big, happy family. Lisa hugged me at the door. "Margaret, this is so sweet of you. I love family dinners." Family dinner. If she only knew what kind of family she was really part of. We made small talk over appetizers. Sarah kept shooting me nervous glances, while Jake acted completely normal. Either he was a sociopath or he genuinely didn't know what was coming. During dinner, I watched them all interact. Michael, talking about work and making everyone laugh. Lisa, cooing over baby Ryan and talking about how much she wanted children of her own. Jake, playing with Ryan and making him giggle. Sarah, barely eating and looking like she might throw up. "Sarah, are you feeling all right?" Lisa asked. "You look pale." "Just tired," Sarah managed. "New motherhood is exhausting," I agreed. All those sleepless nights, all that stress. Sometimes people make choices they never thought they'd make. Sarah's fork clattered against her plate. After dinner, while everyone was having coffee and pie, I stood up. I have something I need to share with all of you. The room went quiet. Sarah was gripping her coffee cup so hard I thought it might break. Over the past few weeks, I've discovered something that affects all of us. Something that's been going on behind our backs. Mom, Michael said carefully. What are you talking about? I looked at Sarah. Last chance. Sarah, would you like to tell them? All eyes turned to her. She opened her mouth, closed it, then started crying. I can't, she whispered. Then I will. I reached into my purse and pulled out the DNA test results. 3 weeks ago, I had a paternity test done on baby Ryan. The room erupted. What? Michael shot to his feet. Margaret, what the hell? Jake stood up too. Lisa just stared, confused. I don't understand. The test shows that Jake is Ryan's biological father. The silence that followed was deafening. Then everyone started talking at once. That's impossible. Michael, how dare you? Jake, this is insane. Lisa, Sarah, I said loudly, cutting through the chaos. Tell them. Sarah was sobbing now, ugly crying that shook her whole body. Sarah? Michael's voice was small, scared. She looked up at him with red, swollen eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. Sorry for what? But his voice already knew. It's true, Jake is Ryan's father. Lisa gasped like she'd been slapped. Jake's face went white. Michael just stood there, swaying slightly like he might fall over. When? Michael asked. During my pregnancy, when you were working late. I was lonely, and Jake was there, and how many times? Lisa's voice was ice cold. Sarah couldn't look at her. It wasn't supposed to happen. How? Many? Times? Lisa, Jake started. Don't you dare say my name. Lisa turned to him, her face a mask of fury. How many times did you sleep with her? Jake opened his mouth, then closed it, then looked down at his hands. Answer me. A few times, he whispered. A few times. Lisa's voice was deadly calm. A few times? And you made a baby. She turned back to Sarah. And you. You've been letting Michael raise another man's child. You've been letting me help you, support you, love that baby, while you knew he belonged to my husband. Lisa, please, get out. What? Sarah looked confused. Get out of this house. All of you. I never want to see any of you again. Lisa grabbed her purse and coat and headed for the door. Lisa, wait! Jake followed her. Don't follow me. Don't call me. Don't come home. We're done. The front door slammed behind them. In the silence that followed, Michael slowly sank back into his chair. He was staring at Ryan, who was sleeping peacefully in his carrier, oblivious to the chaos around him. He's not mine, Michael said quietly. Michael! Sarah reached for him. Don't touch me. His voice was flat, emotionless. He's not my son. You raised him. You love him. Based on a lie. He looked up at her with eyes I'd never seen before. Cold, empty. Everything was a lie. Sarah turned to me, desperate. Look what you've done. You've destroyed everything. I didn't destroy anything, Sarah. You did. The moment you decided to betray my son. Michael stood up again, mechanical, like he was sleepwalking. I need to leave. Michael, please. I need to leave, and I need to think, and I need to figure out what happens next. He walked past Sarah without looking at her, past the baby who wasn't his, past me. Thank you, Mom, he said quietly. Thank you for telling me the truth. And then he was gone too, leaving just me, Sarah, and baby Ryan in the ruins of what used to be a family. The aftermath was brutal, but it was also justice. Sarah moved back in with her parents the next day. The divorce papers were filed within a week. Jake and Lisa separated immediately. She filed for divorce a month later and moved across the country to be near her sister. Michael stayed with me for 2 weeks while he figured out his next steps. We didn't talk much at first. He was processing, grieving, trying to understand how his entire life had been built on lies. Do you hate me? I asked him one evening as we sat on my porch. Hate you? Mom, you saved me. I destroyed your marriage. My marriage was already destroyed. I just didn't know it yet. He was quiet for a moment, watching the sunset. I keep thinking about all the signs I missed. The way Sarah acted around Jake. The way Ryan calmed down for him, but not for me. I thought I was just a bad father. You're not a bad father, Michael. But I'm not Ryan's father at all. That was the hardest part. Michael had bonded with that baby, loved him completely, and now he had to walk away. Sarah had offered to let him stay in Ryan's life, but Michael couldn't handle it. Too painful, too complicated. Do you think I'm a terrible person for not wanting to see him anymore? He asked. I think you're human, and I think you need time to heal. 3 months later, Michael moved into his own apartment. He was seeing a therapist, working through the betrayal and the grief. Slowly, he was becoming himself again. Lisa sent me a letter from California. She thanked me for telling the truth, even though it had destroyed her world too. She said she was starting over, that she'd met someone new, someone who actually wanted children with her. Jake tried to reach out to Michael a few times, but Michael wasn't ready for that conversation. Maybe he never would be. Sarah called me once, about 6 months after everything exploded. I just wanted you to know that Ryan is doing well, she said. That's good. I also wanted to say, I understand why you did what you did. Do you? You were protecting your son. I can respect that, even if I hate how it happened. I'm not sorry, Sarah. I know. I wouldn't expect you to be. That was the last conversation we ever had. A year later, Michael started dating again. A nice woman named Jennifer, who worked as a teacher and had never met any of us before. Someone with no history, no baggage, no lies. The first time he brought her to dinner, I watched him laugh at something she said, and I realized he was going to be okay. Different than before. More cautious maybe, but okay. Do you ever regret it? Jennifer asked me one evening while Michael was grilling burgers outside. She knew the whole story. Michael had been honest with her from the beginning. Regret telling the truth? Regret how it all played out. The pain it caused. I thought about that. About Lisa, starting over in California. About Michael, learning to trust again. About Ryan, growing up without the man he'd thought was his father. No, I said finally. Truth is like medicine. It tastes terrible going down, but it makes you better in the end. Even when it hurts innocent people, especially then. Innocent people deserve to know when they're being lied to. She nodded, understanding. Besides, I added, I'm not the one who hurt innocent people. I'm just the one who exposed the people who did. 2 years after that dinner from hell, I'm sitting in my kitchen, writing this story. Michael comes by every Sunday for dinner, sometimes with Jennifer, sometimes alone. We're closer now than we've ever been. He calls me his hero, which makes me laugh. I'm not a hero. I'm just a mother who couldn't stand watching her son live a lie. But I'll tell you this, if Sarah had listened to my ancient advice from the beginning, none of this would have happened. Sometimes experience knows what it's talking about, and sometimes the ancient advice is exactly what people need to hear, whether they want to or not. The truth always comes out eventually. I just made sure it came out on my timeline instead of theirs. Some people might call that cruel. I call it justice. And honestly, watching Sarah's face when that DNA test came out was worth every sleepless night I'd spent getting there. Don't mess with Ancient Margaret. She's got nothing but time and a very long memory. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.